In wartime, truth is so precious that it should always be accompanied with a bodyguard of lies. That's what Winston Churchill said. And it's more than apt now, because I think what we've witnessed is an Israeli political Maskirovka that will take years to fully understand, but the basics of which the information is out there. I want to try to put this together, hopefully in a way that makes sense. I'm going to try my best. This is the physical diagram of a Soviet deception at different operational levels as theorized by American defense researcher Charles Smith. Essentially what this is are the pieces of a Maskirovka. What is a Maskirovka if you don't know? Maskirovka is a Russian term often translated as military deception that refers to a comprehensive system of military and political tactics aimed at misleading adversaries. It accompanies a wide range of techniques from camouflage and deception to psychological operations, even with the use of proxies. Maskirovka is deeply rooted in Russian military doctrine and is considered a fundamental element of how Russia operates, blurring the lines between peace and war. And it's that blurring of the line between peace and war, of confusion and ambiguity, that I think is the relevant point of this, because this is a political Maskirovka, which I'm going to attempt to describe to you. Just going a little bit more into this. Maskirovka is about creating confusion and uncertainty in the enemy's mind, making them misinterpret the situation and act in ways that can benefit the attacker. While it includes traditional deception tactics like camouflage and decoy, it also extends to psychological operations, information warfare, and political manipulation. And that's where we're going here, the political manipulation aspect of it. I'm going to start here with the timeline. Israel's strike on Iran was 8 months in the planning. What was 8 months ago? Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu Friday said the attacks were authorized over 6 months ago, in November of 2024. What changed in November of 2024? Once that the election happened and they knew they had a staunch ally in the White House, they began planning this. And I believe they also, at that time, began planning to utilize the traits of the President of the United States for their ends. This is not an easy case to make. But as you know, around the time of the inauguration, and shortly thereafter, the president came out with his policies, strategies, and the Iran policy started to take shape. And then a few months ago, we started having actual negotiations between the United States and Iran. This article is from the New York Times. This is from April 16th, 2025, titled Iran says shifting U.S. messages on nuclear talks are not helpful, but Iran's foreign minister said Tehran planned to participate calmly and coolly in the negotiations. Both sides will meet in Rome on Saturday for a second round. We'll participate in negotiations calmly and coolly without being influenced by any faction, Mr. Arghachi said on the sidelines of a cabinet meeting in Tehran on Wednesday, according to a video. He added that Iran's nuclear enrichment for peaceful energy was real and genuine. We are ready to build trust regarding potential concerns, but the issue of the enrichment is non-negotiable. Divisions have emerged within Mr. Trump's inner circle about what exactly the United States is demanding from Iran in the talks. Mr. Trump has said he does not want Tehran to weaponize its program and attain a nuclear bomb. He favored negotiating a deal after months of internal debate over whether to pursue diplomacy or support Israel's plan to strike Iranian nuclear sites as soon as next month in order to hobble Tehran's ability to build a bomb, according to administration officials and others briefed on the discussions. The U.S. National Security Advisor Michael Waltz has said in recent weeks Iran must dismantle its nuclear enrichment program as part of a deal with Mr. Trump, and though Mr. Witkoff initially said in a Fox News interview on Monday that Iran could enrich uranium up to 3.6% cap, similar to the limit laid out in the 2015 nuclear deal struck between Iran and world powers, he then walked it back in a social media post on Tuesday, suggesting that dismantling the program was the goal. So in one day you have a mixed message. You already have a mixed message. Confusion, ambiguity. They don't know which one to think about. Yes, this was back in April. Was there more clarification closer to the time frame of today? Let's look. This is from the New York Post. Let me bring this down so you can see it. This is from the New York Post. U.S. offers Iran nuclear deal allowing temporary uranium enrichment. This is June 2nd, 2025. The Trump administration has pitched in Iran on a revised nuclear deal that would allow Tehran to continue enriching uranium after it is signed, contradicting public statements by top U.S. officials. The proposal, outlined first reported Monday by Axios, was submitted Saturday by the White House Special Middle East Envoy Steve Witkoff. If agreed, the outline would allow Iran to continue enriching uranium domestically, but only for civilian use. Tehran will also have to temporarily reduce its enrichment concentration to 3%, well below weapons grade. June 2nd, you can enrich up to 3%. New York Post, June 9th, Trump reveals the major holdup in Iran nuclear deal. President Trump disclosed Monday that Iran is pushing hard for the right to continue enriching uranium in any new nuclear deal, which the U.S. can't have. They're just asking for things they can't do, Trump, 78, told reporters at the White House. They don't want to give up what they have to give up. You know what that is? They seek enrichment. We can't have enrichment. We want the opposite. And so far, they're not there. Within a week, mixed messages. Very mixed messages. Do I think that's purposeful? I think that that's Donald Trump. And I think that's the Israelis utilizing Donald Trump. And as we can also see, it was an open secret in the corridors of power that Israel was going to strike. It was an open secret. We have the New York Times saying in this article from April 16th, he favored negotiating a deal. After months of internal debate on whether to pursue diplomacy or support Israel's plan to strike Iranian nuclear sites as soon as next month. So it was an open secret. And we also have another clue that this was an open secret in the halls of Washington. From the Daily Mail. Remember, Donald Trump fired his national security advisor Mike Waltz for plotting with Israel's leader to bomb Iran. Because the national security advisor was in full contact with Benjamin Netanyahu, trying to encourage the president to join in this strike. Let's go to this article. President Donald Trump sacked his national security advisor Mike Waltz because he was plotting with Israel's leader to attack Iran, it was claimed last night. Waltz, 51, was thought to have been fired because he accidentally added a journalist to a Signal chat about plans to attack Yemen's Houthi terrorist group, causing global embarrassment for the Trump administration. But last night, the Washington Post reported that the real reason Trump's ire was that Walz huddled with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu during the latter's White House visit in February and appeared to share the Israelis' leader conviction that the time was ripe to strike Iran. So that's why Mike Waltz was fired, because he wanted us to join this attack. And the evidence that they want us in this is from this morning, actually from last night. Forgive me. It's 3 a.m. right now as I record this. Out of Zero Hedge, Trump rejects Netanyahu's request to join war, as Israel needs large U.S. bunker buster bombs. In the past 48 hours, Israel has asked the Trump administration to join its war effort. Israel seeks help targeting and destroying the fortified Fardo uranium enrichment site. Axios said the Trump administration is so far rejecting the Israeli request. So we fired our national security advisor. We gave mixed messages. Now, the firing of the national security advisor, because he was working with Israel, is quite simple. Trump views him as a backstabber. You stab me in the back, you work for me. You do as I say. Trump knows that his base is anti-war. I am definitely anti-war, and I do not want us involved in this at all. Not at all. But he also feels that he's beholden to Israel, which he should not feel that way, because he's not. He's president of the United States. The Israelis knew, as of November, that they had somebody in the White House who, one, didn't want war, but also didn't want them to have a nuclear weapon, the Iranians. They know that his personality is, well, it's Donald Trump. It's Donald Trump. It's just going to fall out of his mouth. Things are going to change. It's a perfect vessel to utilize to create ambiguity. Because the world was convinced that Israel would not strike Iran without American backing. They showed that's different. But the backing they're getting was a political ambiguity that allowed them to strike the Iranians in a way that a decapitation strike that is historic, which I believe absolutely delayed the retaliation against Israel. What they did is historic and will be studied for decades. The last 2 months in military history have been historic. And I think what we just saw was the unfolding of a Maskirovka planned since November. I believe we just saw Maskirovka that had been planned since November. Because the president says he knew everything. And I believe he did. I'm sure he was told about this. Please seek peace. We don't want war. I'm almost sure that's what he was told. But then there were the mixed messages. More mixed messages. More mixed messages. Because that's Donald Trump. Because whatever he wants on that day. But he doesn't want anyone to backstab him. In the end, he doesn't want war. In the end, though, they do. And I may not have done the best job of putting this together. But I hope that you can at least see why I started thinking this. Because they've been planning this since he was elected. they're utilizing his personality traits to create ambiguity and sow discord, to create the what if scenarios. I don't believe that strike where it killed almost the whole general staff of the Iranian military would have happened had there not been planned negotiations for Sunday. They thought that they were still in a window that they were no longer in. And I believe it was the Israelis who spent months creating that window. And when they saw that window, they weren't going to hesitate. That window had to be created with months and months of planning. Let's go back to this real quick. The military doctrine, military science, and military art. Continuity, plausibility, variety, and activity. The continuity was that there was negotiations, continuous negotiations. The plausibility, those negotiations could be good, was actually there. The variety, there were things on the table that were beyond the 3.6%, some of the aid and everything. There was plausibility to this. And the activity of the Maskirovka is that this was ongoing. Everyone continued to say, even as the bloody bombs were falling from the sky, you had the President of the United States out there saying, we can still strike a deal. As the bombs were falling from the sky, we can still strike a deal. The Israelis had the technological capability and the political strategy to do this. They had the military control theory. They knew the military geography. They also knew the military history of the Iranians and the military organization. They knew the military psychology and the military intelligence clearly to make this strike. The military sociology to understand what this strike would mean, and the military economy of the Iranians to understand what their retaliation would be. They understood the military doctrine of the Iranians, military science, and military art. They understood the technological capabilities of themselves and their enemy. They understood the political strategy employed by their enemy and employed by themselves and employed by their allies, and they manipulated it to create so. The military control theory, they controlled the battle space with their doctrine and their theory. They understood the military geography. They had the tactical high ground, drones, fighter aircraft. They understood. They knew the military history of the Iranians would be to use proxies, to strike here and there until that they had their weapon. They understood the military organization of the Iranian military to the point where you decapitate these certain things and you win. They understood the military psychology of what a first strike would be and the military psychology of the repercussions of that first strike on the Iranian military, and they understood the military intelligence. They knew where these people were, when, and why, and the sociology, and they obviously understood the economy of it. This was incredible. And they did this to create a window that they utilized. And one of the things they utilized, I'm sorry to say as an American, was the President of the United States. We knew everything. I believe that he was told everything and that he was perfectly willing to go along with it. This is troubling to me. And I'm only going to bring up one story to emphasize this. Because we were days away from a meeting, which would have been the final meeting with the Iranians, which would have been today, Sunday. We were also in negotiations with Russia when Ukraine drone attack destroys dozens of military aircraft inside Russia. It's very important that the President of the United States be seen to be an honest broker of peace. Being utilized as a political ploy, I think, is discrediting. Bigly. I love that word. I'm very concerned that the credibility of the negotiating power of the United States has been crippled. Because how do you go into a room with an American negotiator in a situation that is high level, high stress, high impact, and have 100% confidence that across the table is an honest broker? It just raises a lot of questions with me, and it frankly worries me. I applaud the strategy if you're Israel, knowing that you're going to attack and you utilize every means within your arsenal to make that happen, including utilizing the President of the United States as a disinformation and puppet. See, the more I've thought about it, the more it pisses me off. Okay? I'm not pleased about this. I do not consider this to be a good thing. I do not consider this to be a good thing. And the only clue that I have that he was an unwilling puppet. Willing, but unwilling. I know it's a difficult thing to try to get across. He was willing to participate, but he was unwilling to go to war. Wanted to bring it to the brink. These are my clues. Donald Trump fires National Security Advisor. Trump rejects Netanyahu's request to join the war. Those are my clues. Other than that, I don't like what has happened. I believe that the President of the United States was utilized in a Maskirovka put together by the Israelis. And applauds to them. Applaud them. They did it. It has to stop. Everything I have in this video I'm going to put in the description. I don't know if I've put this across in the way that makes sense, but I think the using of the President of the United States as a tool is a big friggin' problem. And kind of sours my opinion on certain things. If you like this video, hit like. Hope you subscribe, share it with a friend. Let them know. Maskirovka. You just saw it. I appreciate you.